Hello, it's your boy Amreezy, and I'm back live on YouTube with another episode of the Premier League and Sorare review show. How does it work? I review all of the Premier League games every weekend when there's Premier League football on a Monday. We review all the games, we have a nice little chat, we talk about it, we talk about all the games, all the goal scorers, if there's any Sorare related news we should be thinking about, that kind of pops up in the conversation. If people in the chat, like in last week's video, want to talk about other areas of Sorare, I'm happy to do that as well. It's a Premier League and Sorare review show, so we can review other areas of Sorare. I don't mind talking about any area of Sorare. However, what my kind of area of expertise, what my kind of area of knowledge is mainly Premier League. That's my favorite league. I do play Sorare in a few other leagues like Premier League, La Liga, and Mexico. They're my kind of three big kind of leagues. However, if you want to talk about the Bulgarian football, or you want to talk about a Croatian league, or you want to talk about the K-League or MLS, that's fine. I won't be as knowledgeable about that, but educate me, knowledge me. I've been playing Sorare for about a year, just over a year now, about a year and 3 months. And it's my favorite fantasy football game. But I think if you like the Premier League and fantasy football games like FPL, for instance, this could also be useful for you. So, you know, if you're watching this video in the future, welcome from the past. Do give it a like, a subscribe, join the channel, join the community, join me for one of these live one day where you can join the chat and we have a good time. We talk football. It's a place for football nerds, especially if you like the Premier League. Premier League, football nerds, that's what I am. So if you are one of those two, welcome. So how we like to do it is we like to start off by jumping into the Premier League results. And it was a quieter weekend this weekend. There were less games because of the Carabao Cup final. Congratulations to Newcastle winning their first bit of silver in a while. I think if you're not a Liverpool fan, that's what we all wanted Newcastle to win, right? So well done to Newcastle. So there was 2 less games this weekend because of Liverpool and Newcastle's games both being not played, both being postponed. We started off the week, and I should just say, for so many reasons, I've had a disaster of a week. I went into this weekend full of confidence, full of beans, full of life. I thought, you know, because look at these fixtures. I had a Wolves heavy lineup. I had a Wolves collection out there. I had a Nottingham Forest lineup out there, and I had a bit of Bournemouth. Bournemouth lost, so there's Evan Nielsen and Semenyo in the toilet. Wolves, yes, they won, but it was only 2-1 against Southampton. The reason why I kind of bought all of these Wolves cards was because of this good fixture run they had at the end of the season. And these are the kind of games where I don't just need Wolves to win. I needed them to win like 3-0, 4-0, really wanted a clean sheet. Same with Forest at Ipswich. You know, it was a good win for Forest. And if you're not playing a fantasy football game and you're just a Nottingham Forest fan, it's a great weekend for Forest. If you are playing a fantasy football game like Sorare, the best fantasy football game out there, you want a clean sheet, you want your guys to score, you want Chris Wood to be involved in at least one of those 4 goals. So we'll get to that. Let's start at the top. Everton won, West Ham won. Everton snatched an equaliser here, and I mean, once again, I was saying this on last week's video when we saw that West Ham lost to Newcastle 1-0. They threw away this one as well. They're very unlucky, West Ham. They're sort of... It's hard to say because it's a cruel game football and Potter won't have that much chance. Potter really needs to kind of come in, get West Ham playing, get results. He's in a good position, West Ham, where they're not going to get relegated. And I don't think anyone's really expecting West Ham to qualify for Europe. So it is a bit of a free hit this season for West Ham now. And it's mainly, I guess, about building for next season, building a tactical identity. This 3 at the back from West Ham, since it's come in a few weeks ago, I think it was against Arsenal when West Ham rolled this out for the first time. Ward-Prowse, my boy Ward-Prowse, coming into that team. This formation basically facilitates James Ward-Prowse because he can't fit into a 2. He needs to be a free role as a kind of number 3. Even if he's not the most advanced player in the 3, I think Paquetá is usually that. Souček's more of a kind of box-to-box. Ward-Prowse, he just drifts around. However, this formation is good for West Ham. I think once again they were a little bit unlucky not to win, but we can't keep saying that each weekend. We can't keep saying, oh, West Ham once again unlucky. It was a 91st minute, the Everton goal, And in terms of Sorare, I had a kind of West Ham classic team, and I also have a Homelander. Welcome to the chat. West Ham fall down has to be studied. I remember them playing for you. Yeah, for ages, West Ham were this exciting team that they were building something. They hired, I think, David Moyes back in the day. It didn't quite work out. They tried other managers like Pellegrini, Lopetegui. They've tried continental managers. They've tried English managers, British managers. And they've spent up quite a bit of money as well. They've not spent as much as other teams, but they have spent quite a bit of money as well. They've got that big stadium. And a bit worrying about West Ham. And once again, this game, looking at these ratings, players of Kudos. Kudos has been terrible this season. Kudos was amazing last season. Kudos was I bought him at the end of last season. I bought his Sorare card because I was like, he's an amazing player. He's not going to be at West Ham for that long. Now it looks like he's going to be staying at West Ham a bit longer because I thought this year would be his kind of major breakthrough season where all the big teams want him at the end of the season. But 6.2 rating. Once again, Kudos. I mean, can we see his past ratings? Kudos is past ratings. How do we do that on this website? Player profile. We need to go on player profile and not keep clicking done. Mohamed Kudos. Here we go. Look at these scores. So many oranges for one of the best players last season. A good score against Arsenal, a good score against Aston Villa. Maybe against the bigger teams, he kind of ups his game because he knows scouts are watching. But against the teams like Leicester, he needs to be doing better. Brentford, he needs to be doing better. These are the games where last season he was so fast, electric. What's happened to Kudos? What has happened to Kudos? So I think he's been a big disappointment. So because West Ham have had a lot of problems with strikers this year. So you could say a lot of their problems has been because they signed Fulkrug, who was supposed to be the striker for West Ham. He got injured. He's not really worked out. And then Bowen's good, but I always think Bowen is better on the wing. I always think Bowen would be... I think if Liverpool... This might be Amreezy's hot take of the week. I didn't expect this to be Amreezy's hot take of the week. This might be my hot take of the week. If Liverpool do lose Salah this summer... and they want a kind of proven Premier League winger to play off a striker, I think they should be looking at Jarrod Bowen. I think Jarrod Bowen should be top of the list. They should be throwing all of their money at Jarrod Bowen because he's proven in the Premier League. He's got what it takes. He's that hard-working winger that I think could kind of work for slot. I think he reminds me he might suit maybe more the Liverpool team of Mane, Firmino, Salah, that Liverpool generation, but hard-working wingers. Got an eye for goal. He's also a bit of a team player as well. I think if you go to a team like Liverpool, you can't be the big fish in a small pond, basically, because then when you go to a team like Liverpool, you're going to be a bit shocked. You're going to be like, why aren't I the main guy at this club? I don't think Bowen is that guy. I think he's happy to be a team. He's happy to be a team player. And I think Liverpool could do a lot worse than looking at Jarrod Bowen as their number one target if Salah leaves. Homelander. I mean, West Ham has great potential players like Kudos that were great in Ajax or the legend Ward-Prowse. For some reason, they don't seem to have the right mindset of the Premier League. To be honest, playing with two wingers as a striker is not going to be useful as much. Totally agree. Bowen should be the best replacement if Diaz or Chiesa. Oh, surely Chiesa is going to leave this summer because I know he scored at the weekend. He scored in the cup final, but Chiesa should not be at Liverpool. He doesn't fit. And I don't think Diaz started the season okay. I think he's fallen off lately. So I think even if Salah stays, there's room for Liverpool to sign another winger to play with Salah and a striker. They probably need to sign a striker as well. But two wingers is not working for West Ham. Fulkrug, where's Fulkrug? Is he back? They did sign Evan Ferguson. They signed Evan Ferguson, who's a bit of a Football Manager wonder kid. It doesn't seem like he's gone straight into the first team. So perhaps he rather has the two wingers up front rather than Evan Ferguson. Surely give Evan Ferguson a chance. Throw him in, play him, start him every game. Give Kudos a rest. Where's Fulkrug? He's going to be injured till early April 2025. That's been a disastrous signing. What a disastrous signing. And obviously Antonio was horrible. What happened to Antonio? That couldn't have been helped. But you do wonder if maybe in January they should have signed someone. Because if Evan Ferguson isn't ready to play every game, why did they sign him? And why didn't they sign a striker that was ready for the first team? So yeah, that's my thoughts on West Ham. I think if Potter is given time, which he will be because they're not going to get relegated, so he'll be given next season as well. In the summer, they need to nail their signings. I think when Potter was a Chelsea manager, there was a lot of friction with the board where he wanted to sign certain players and the board didn't want to sign those players. And I don't know how it's going to work at West Ham, how much power he's going to be given. Is he going to be given enough power to make all the signings? If so, they need to let him get his guys in because there's big holes in this team. The defense, I like the formation. I think Wan-Bissaka, maybe Emerson isn't Premier League quality anymore. I don't know. Maybe it's time for him to move to somewhere like MLS, somewhere like Saudi. Maybe it's time for him to collect a big paycheck and they need a better left wing back. But if we look at this game's, the rankings, Bowen 7.5, Emerson 7.5. They were the best players, the defense as well. Everton, on the other hand, a little bit of momentum falling off Everton right now, but they're still grinding results, which is kind of a testament to David Moyes. Let me just read this question. Opinion on Paquetá's future if West Ham doesn't work out for him. I don't think West Ham need Paquetá, especially in this formation. I know he's an amazing player, but it could be a good chance of they could get rid of him while his value is still high. Because I think the big European teams would still want him. I think he's still getting Brazil call-ups. I think he's still in the Brazil. Last time I checked, he was still playing for Brazil. So, I mean, if we look at this formation, West Ham don't really need a kind of creative number 10 player. They need like they need another Souček. They need another workhorse. They need another kind of Caicedo type player. They need Paquetá probably isn't that because James Ward-Prowse isn't the best at tackling. Souček is, but Souček's been playing quite box-to-box lately. So I think they need someone with a bit more discipline and have two players up front. So maybe it wouldn't be so bad if they saw Paquetá. And I think loads of teams will want him. Because he's that Brazil international. I think he could go. And then West Ham could get good money, spend that on a striker. Sell Paquetá for about 40, 50 million. Spend that on a striker. That's what West Ham should be doing because they can't be relying on Fulkrug next year. Evan Ferguson might go back to Brighton. Antonio's getting a bit old now. So sign a striker. And if they lose Bowen as well, they need to spend well, West Ham. Everton, on the other hand, Tarkowski, Branthwaite, this back four is becoming pretty solid now. Garner, it wasn't at his best this game. I was hoping for Garner to be a little bit better because I've got his Sorare Classic card. So I'm secretly hoping Garner's going to become a bit of a Cesc Fabregas type because, you know, he can win a tackle, he's got a bit of bite on him, and he's got a good pass on him. Just really need him to kind of get going. But the good thing about Everton is it's the same midfield and defense every game now. So they're building confidence. Garner's getting better. He's still young. I'm optimistic about Garner. My boy Lindstrom didn't play this week. I've stopped playing in my Sorare lineups, Lindstrom, but he didn't play this week. Alcaraz has been moved out to the wing, and it's still this kind of fake 4-4-2 formation where Doucouré basically plays as a second striker up here. Alcaraz is a good young player, isn't he? Good young player, Alcaraz. I was a bit annoyed because I obviously want Jesper Lindstrom to be a star and I want him to work at Everton. So I was kind of watching Alcaraz closely, like, should he be playing on the wing or should Lindstrom be playing? But to be fair, Alcaraz does look really good. And Harrison didn't have one of his best games, but Harrison's had a good run lately. He's got a really good cross on him, Harrison. He's got a bit of a David Beckham style cross on him. So I like Harrison for that reason. So that was the first game of the weekend. Everton won, West Ham won. Then we go to a game which had big importance for my Sorare lineup as a big Nottingham Forest holder. I was really hoping for some big scores this week. And basically, I don't have Elanga. I have Wood, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, Anderson, Williams, Milenkovic, the goalkeeper. I don't have Elanga. And Elanga was the one who I should have had this week. So very frustrating. Lindstrom is at Everton is so sad to see. I think if he becomes a starter again, he can get his momentum back and maybe rejoin Napoli in the near future. Yeah, maybe. Maybe a loan would do good for him. maybe a loan, like next season, maybe he goes on loan. If Everton can sign another winger, or if this kid, if Alcaraz and Harrison are the starting wingers next year, maybe you don't want Lindstrom on the bench next year. Maybe it's one of those ones where you sign a player, doesn't quite work out the first year, then you loan him the second year, and then he gets confidence and comes back and he's a better player. But who knows? Yeah, so Ipswich 2, Nottingham Forest 4. So yes, I was watching this game very closely, hoping Chris Wood would finally score. Chris Wood has not been in a good run of form lately, and it's worrying. Look at this, 6.8, 6.6, 5.9, 5.1. And I think these are the games when he was scoring. So he was on a crazy run of scoring every week, it seemed like. Now, and it's not like he's playing the hardest. He's played Ipswich twice. Although I don't know if he played in this game, only 38 minutes. But he's played Ipswich, Manchester City. We all know everyone can score as a Man City, so that wasn't the hardest game. Exeter, 30 minutes only. Didn't score against Bournemouth. So Chris Wood, slight worrying. If I was Nottingham Forest, would you sign another striker in the summer? I mean, Chris Wood's had an amazing season. But I do wonder if Forest are thinking, has he had a bit of a better season than he should have? And he's about 32 years old, maybe 33, so he's kind of not getting any younger. So I do wonder if Nottingham Forest think, maybe we sign another striker with him next year. Because they don't really have... Their backups at Nottingham Forest are... the backups for Nottingham Forest are that Nigerian striker, Awaniwi. They've got Awaniwi, and they had Emmanuel Dennis, who I think they've now loaned out to the Championship. So I think they need some competition for Chris Wood, because in this game he came off on the 80th minute, but it's not like they have... Who did they bring him on for? They bought Awaniwi needs to be sold. He's not Nottingham Forest level. And if Nottingham Forest are going to be in the Champions League next year, like the question in the chat, how do you explain Forest's rise to the top and potentially reach... They've just really got this formation down. They defend really well and they counterattack really well. They're very happy for teams to have the ball. They're very happy for teams to... I remember when Chelsea played them. It's when I first kind of saw this. And then they had Arsenal the next week, and I saw it again, where they just are happy for the opposition to have the ball. They're happy for you to do all the passing, and they keep a really... These two boys really help out the defense well. They keep a nice hard back line, solid defense, and then Elanga and Hudson-Odoi are so fast on the counter-attack. They're really exciting, Nottingham Forest. So I think that mixed with the Premier League quality hasn't been that good this year. Manchester City have been off. Chelsea haven't really been up for it. Arsenal have had lots of injury problems. I think Forest they've had a good time. If Forest were like this last year, they wouldn't be in the Champions League places. I think the rest of the teams around them are being bad, but they're also just defending really well. They have no European football as well, so they're fresh for every Premier League game. I think they went out of the FA Cup. They went out of the Carabao Cup maybe quite early, so they've just had the Premier League to focus on. And players like Chris Wood are having the best seasons of their career. Hudson-Odoi's been really well. Good. Gibbs White's done well. Elanga, best season of his career. So there's a few players in the Forest team where they're just having the best seasons of their career. Konstantinos, welcome. How are you? How's it all going? How was your Sorare weekend? Mine was terrible. I'm in the middle of telling why, because this Forest team was one of the main reasons I was backing. This was my number one Premier League lineup, and Chris Wood did nothing. Hudson-Odoi did nothing. Gibbs White got one assist, and they didn't keep the clean sheet. So, I mean, let's have a quick look at how that team... in terms of how that scores on Sorare, Hudson-Odoi 45, Chris Wood 44, the goalkeeper 30. That's one of the lowest scores I've ever seen Zeld have. Williams 40, and Gibbs White was my only good scorer from that. So if I had Elanga, it wouldn't even be enough to win something. So I didn't win anything from this lineup, and it was my number one Division 1 Premier League in season. I really thought that was going to be the one, but alas, that's what happens in Sorare. Ipswich, on the other hand, they showed a bit of fight, but it's not going to be enough, is it? It's not going to be enough. They did come back and scored 2 goals. A bit annoying, Liam Delap's gone a bit quiet again. I do think Liam Delap, when he leaves, will be Liam Delap will look a lot better when he moves in the summer to a better team. I think he's amazing. I'd love him at Chelsea, Liam Delap. I'd love Liam Delap at Chelsea. I think he could go to Liverpool. I think he could go to Chelsea. Probably not. Arsenal. It'd be great for Arsenal. Arsenal need a striker. I feel like apart from Man City, all the big Champions League Prem teams need a striker. So Liam Delap should be in high demand this summer. But yeah, he just doesn't look good at Ipswich because he's got no service. Constantino says, mine didn't go as planned, but I stayed in Division 1 in my Prem League size and won €5, so okay. Yeah, fairly similar to mine. Fairly similar to me. It wasn't a good weekend, but at least I stayed in Division 1. I didn't get relegated. But painful because I was so excited about this weekend. I had Wolves at Southampton and I had Nottingham Forest at Ipswich. So like on paper, those are two of the best fixtures. Only Leicester would have been a better fixture. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed considering how excited I had got. But yeah, Ipswich, not much to get excited about here, is there? Hutchinson looks like a good player as well. He was a Chelsea Academy player. I remember seeing him a few times come for the Chelsea youth team. I think he got a few cup games and he always looked exciting. So again, he's one of those players where I think next season for Ipswich, if he goes into the Championship, he'll have a really good season, or he could move as well. I'm not as confident though in him making the step up. I think he needs another year at a team like Ipswich, a team kind of lower half of the Premier League, just to kind of build his confidence up. I think if he goes to a team like Liverpool, Arsenal, someone like that, he won't get in the team. He'll be out of form. I worry if Hutchinson gets a big move straight away. Thomas is in the chat. Welcome, Thomas. Always good to have you in the chat. How are you, Thomas? How was your Sorare weekend? Anything exciting? Rub it in. We need some success. I did disastrous. 0 cash wins. I think only like 10 essence. All my Premier League lineups let me down in horrible ways, including this Nottingham Forest team. Big letdown. So give us some good news, Thomas. Give us some good news. We need it. We need it. We need a big win in the chat. So yeah, Calvin Phillips might leave. Davies might leave. And Ciso probably goes back to Brighton. Hutchinson, Delap might leave. But Liam Delap's the only one that I'm kind of fairly confident he does well. He makes the step up. Thomas, same as me. Good, but didn't win anything. Same as me, Thomas. Welcome to the Essence Club. Welcome to the 10 Essence Club. This Nottingham Forest team, I can't get over it. They were playing Ipswich. If I'd have seen these scores before the week and gone, well, they're playing Ipswich. Are you telling me Hudson-Odoi and Chris Wood are both going to get like 45? The goalkeeper's going to get 30 against Ipswich. Seld, who's been amazing all season. I wouldn't have believed this lineup, but here we are. And that is Ipswich versus Nottingham Forest. So even though Nottingham Forest won, disappointing for Sorare. Manchester City 2, Brighton 2. I said it. I said last week, there's no way there's clean sheets in this game. There's no way this game was ever having clean sheets. And Marmouche, apologies. Someone messaged me on Discord asking me my thoughts on their lineups this weekend. And apologies, I think I may have talked them out of Marmouche and maybe talked them into someone that didn't do as well as Marmouche. So apologies for that if you're watching, but it's so rare. I can't make the right calls. Look at my Nottingham Forest team. But yeah, there's no way this was going to be a clean sheet. If you had Brighton attackers, it was a good game to kind of back the likes of Mitoma, Pedro. Who got the points though? Not many popular Sorare players got the points here, did they? I don't think many people have like Kushnov, Estupinan. It looks like Gomez got a 7.4. Hinchelwood's been putting up a few performances. That's a few times I've looked at Brighton's scores and then gone, ooh, Hinchelwood, look at this. Hinchelwood, 7.2, 7. He's in the greens. 8, 7, 7.2, and 8.3. He got a bad score against Bournemouth. But what's he been scoring on Sorare, Hinchelwood? Let's have a quick little on-stream check. I used to have a Hinchelwood card. Okay, his scores haven't been that great. So it looks like he's one of them players who's been playing well, but not for Sorare, not in terms of Sorare. Only when he scores, it looks like his AA isn't that great. Only when he scores does he give a kind of good score. Okay, I'm glad I sold him. I sold him a while ago. Well, good to check. Well, I mean, for football reasons, though, doing well at right back. Who should be at right back? Lamptey? Lamptey, who's injured at right back? Why is he at right back? Veltman, maybe Igor could play right back. James Milner, we all know James Milner could play at right back. He could play anywhere. But yeah, Brighton's good kind of form continues. It's really hard to know against Manchester City if it's a good score or a bad score. Like if you beat Manchester City this year, it's hard to know, like, were you really good or was it Man City were bad? But I saw the highlights from this game. I didn't have much Sorare interest in it, so I didn't watch this one. And it looked like a fun game. It looks like Man City. To be fair to Man City, they are still playing. They are kind of. They could have easily just heads gone, not tried, lost way more games. It does seem like they have got some of their momentum back, some of their motivation back. And when you see them scoring, they're like celebrating like they really want to win. They really want these goals. So fair play to Man City. They are kind of still going. A lot of other teams would have just completely turned off by now. His shot was deflected into the net as that own goal. Was that Hinchelwood? So he's becoming a bit of a danger in the box, is he? I like the idea of Brighton. I like the idea of Brighton maybe next year, because I'm already thinking Sorare next year. Like, what collections am I going to get early next year? Because I think that's the way to do it. Back a team like I have Nottingham Forest and Wolves this year and just ride them out for the whole year. And Brighton are one of those teams where it's like, I think if they sign a few good players this summer and don't lose a few of these players, I think their prices could be quite good next year. And it could be a case of they could just be one of those teams where they look promising, but the prices are a good price as well. Teams like Nottingham Forest, their prices are all going to be really high next year. And I'm kind of also thinking pre-season prices, like the first week of the Premier League season next year. I don't think I'm going to want to go for Nottingham Forest again because the prices will be so high. But I'm already looking at teams now for next year and kind of going, Brighton could be one of those teams where if they don't get European football, they could be like Nottingham Forest were this year, where they just are concentrating on the Premier League. So João Pedro takes penalties. Didn't have a good score this week, but he's always lively. These front four are always lively, and if they all stay at Brighton, I like the idea of them. Balaba's quite a handy. He's a bit of a ball winner. I don't know what his Sorare scores are like, but every time I watch him, I'm like, he just looks like one of those solid ball-winning midfielders. Scores aren't that bad. He was doing quite well, a couple of 60s a few weeks ago. Is he under 20? He's an under 23 as well. Only 20 years old. Yeah, he's a great card. As one to kind of, for the future. Maybe scores aren't amazing now, but like next year, that's one of those cards where I wouldn't mind buying him before the season starts. As a kind of under 23 card, and also if Brighton have a good season, maybe he's a key guy. So yeah, I like the idea of Baleba as well as the obvious guys up front. I like the defenders. It looks like Lewis Dunk isn't around these days. Is he injured, Lewis Dunk? Lewis Dunk injured till March. But Lewis Dunk's going to have a hard time getting back into this Brighton team because Van Hecke and Webster, they've been good. Brighton have been good. And when Igor was playing, Igor was good. So Brighton have got like 4 good centre-back options. So they've got a great team. The goalkeeper's fairly promising, although his scores and Sorare price have dropped off a bit of a cliff this year. But again, that's why Brighton might be a good team this year. So I'm kind of looking at teams that haven't had good seasons this year, but could have good seasons next year. And Man City, I'm obviously expecting to be back next year. Rodri, I think, could be coming back soon, right? Rodri could be back soon, and when he's back, momentum will change. Early July, so still a few weeks, but I heard that Rodri's kind of gone to that next stage of training, so possibly good news for Man City there. Defense, though, just a mess. Rico Lewis, Kushnov with an own goal, Diaz 6.4, Ortega was in goal instead of Edison. I mean, still not convinced by that City defense, but I haven't been convinced by the City defense for years. Thomas, West Ham, I mean, I see where you're going. I see the thinking, but I've just been stung by West Ham so much this season because last season I ended the season buying a West Ham Classic collection to play this season, and they've just been so bad that I think I've been stung by West Ham. But I do see the thinking. I can see, especially if they sign a striker in the summer. West Ham sign a striker. I think they've got the team. I think they've got a solid defense, good creative midfielders, good wingers. They just need a striker. I've been saying this, well, we've been saying this for West Ham for years though. But I like Potter as a manager. And I can see why you said West Ham, Thomas. I like that thinking. If I hadn't been stung, and also I've got most of the West Ham cards already in Classic, so I'll just keep playing West Ham next year in Classic and hoping I actually do better next year. But I like that idea. I like the idea of West Ham. And maybe a one or two in-season cards next year for me. I wouldn't go full collection though, but I do like that idea. So that was Manchester City versus Brighton 2-2. Next up was Southampton v Wolves, and here comes more Sorare pain. So, I mean, it looks great. All of these green ratings for Wolves. You think, okay, Amreezy, you went for Wolves and Sorare. Surely you did well, right? Surely you won cash, right? Here we go. Wolves. So I played them with Declan Rice because I thought Chelsea are going to get battered by Arsenal. They didn't get battered, but they did lose. And, you know, Rice with a 75 score, not that bad. Larson, we were saying in last week's video, we need Larson to start scoring. Larson delivered. Larson came through. Even Bellegarde, I picked the right midfielder. You know, I was saying, is it Bellegarde, Andre, or Gomez? Who do you go for in midfield? Bellegarde was the right midfielder. But the defense, 55 from Totti, 38 against Southampton. What minute did they concede? 75 minutes. They were doing so well. It was all going to plan. 74 minutes into the game, cigar was out, sunglasses were on. I was loving life. I'd seen Larson score twice. I'd seen Bellegarde get an assist. And then just conceding on the 75th minute. Scores just dropped, plummeted out of those cash prizes and into mediocrity. Thomas says they're getting David. Yeah, that'd be a good signing. Although that would be, I think that would be a good signing for like any other team. But I feel like West Ham are a bit like Chelsea. They're cursed with strikers. And it does feel a little bit like one of those signings where they're going to curse another player. He has the qualities for the Premier League. He's quite strong, very fast. So you can see him working. I could see him working at a team like Liverpool. I could see him working at a team like Man City. But when it's West Ham, I just feel like there's so much pressure for strikers that I just feel like they should go for someone proven in the Premier League. They should try and get a Premier League striker, maybe someone with experience in the Premier League. But I guess it's a lot more expensive to get those players. So David, it's a good gamble. It's a good gamble. And I hope it works out for them. Because all I need to do is get a David Sorare card and I've got all of the West Ham cards. So yeah, let's see what happens. Wolves were good. The problem with them is, and it's probably the mistake I made in buying a Wolves collection, even though I think my Wolves cards have all paid for themselves now. I think I've won enough cash prizes with Wolves cards to justify me buying the collection. I don't think it's gone as well as my plan, as I thought it would go. Mainly because in my head, I saw Wolves' fixture run at the end of the season and I thought they're going to win a lot of these games. They're going to need to win a lot of these games. What I didn't envision is they're not going to win these games by lots of goals, especially with Cunha out. Cunha being out is really annoying. And going back to this team, if Cunha was playing, I would have probably had Cunha instead of Declan Rice. Maybe they get more goals with Cunha, so Larson and Bellegarde get better scores, but it's still not going to change the clean sheet fact. So even with Cunha, still not going to change the fact that the goalkeeper and the defender aren't going to keep a clean sheet. So that's probably what I didn't quite envision with my Wolves plan, and maybe why I won't do it next year. So my plan was kind of find teams like Everton and Wolves that are going to battle hard at the remaining of the last few games of the season, and then back them, because when they have teams like Southampton, they'll win massively because they'll be really up for it. What I didn't think was they're not going to keep clean sheets in those games, and even if they win, they might just win 2-1. So I probably won't do that next season. I probably will learn from my lesson, and it wasn't a bad, like I said, I think it's paid for itself, and I've still got the Cunha card, which will be great as a classic card next year and have the collection score around it. It's just that I did imagine Wolves winning this like 4-0. I did imagine Wolves and Everton to be doing not be scraping wins. So I think next year you've got to find teams that are either really solid at the back or really free scoring. And Wolves are neither. So possibly this is Amreezy admitting a little bit of a mistake in his Wolves plan, but it was a good lesson to learn. First in-season Premier League season, we're still learning. So we take these lessons to next season. But yeah, in terms of Wolves, good scores from everywhere. Agdaboo, bit of a quiet score from him. I don't quite know why. I did watch this game and I don't remember noticing him as being particularly bad. Maybe he gave the ball away for the goal or something. But Doherty's continuing to look really well in this back three. He's kind of done a bit of an Azpilicueta. He's kind of gone from being a wing back when he was a younger man. Now he's getting a bit older, but he's still got that experience and wiliness and knowledge. He's kind of become an Azpilicueta where he's slotting into a kind of back three. And he fits the formation really well. A little bit like West Ham. It's the same formation that West Ham play. No, it's a bit different to West Ham. West Ham are a bit more like two strikers up front. It's a bit more like how Crystal Palace play. With Eze and mine's gone blank. Former Sarr, Eze and Sarr. This should be Cunha. Should be Cunha and Bellegarde, but Cunha didn't want to play by the rules. So good performance from Wolves. Southampton, I mean, another defeat from Southampton. They did have a good last 15 minutes of this game. Southampton were attacking, were going quite hard on this game. I did think once they got the goal, I was worried Wolves were going to concede another. When they got the 7th goal, it did kind of switch. Is it like a momentum graph here? We can see, look at this momentum graph. Southampton actually seem to have had a lot of momentum, a lot of periods of momentum. But this is what I'm talking about. This last 15 minutes here was a nervous watch as a Wolves holder. So yeah, I mean, if Southampton can't win that game though, are they going to win next week? Are they going to win the week after? Probably not. Probably down. Maybe going to get the lowest ever point score. What points are they on? 9 points. 9 points. I can't remember what the lowest score is. I think it's around, it's in the just above 10. I think Derby got something really low. So Southampton surely just want to not get that. They've got Crystal Palace next, which will be good for me because I've got my Crystal Palace cards to play. So hopefully my Crystal Palace cards can do better than my Wolves cards did because they can keep a clean sheet. So that was Wolves v Southampton. The last game on Saturday was Bournemouth v Brentford. Another game that I was watching for Sorare reasons because I bought a Semenyo card. We were saying in last week's video to Semenyo has had a bit of a dip in form and his price in Sorare has come down massively. I managed to get him for £2 and even though he didn't have a good score this week, got a yellow card annoyingly as well. I still think it's a great price. I still think it's a good card. So hopefully Semenyo can turn that form around next week. Who have they got next week? Bournemouth. Next week, they've got Ipswich. Okay. Next week, I've got my Crystal Palace cards at Southampton and I've got my Bournemouth boys at Ipswich. Come on. Surely next week. Brentford are one of the weirdest teams in the Premier League this season. I don't know if they're weirder than Fulham. They're probably weirder than Fulham. Brentford, just can't predict them. Every week, I'm saying either Brentford were really good this week or really bad. Last week, where I was saying they were really bad. This week, they were really good. I mean, they're a little bit like West Ham in the sense that they're not going to get relegated. They're probably not. They could actually get a European place. How close are Brentford to a European place? They're 11th, maybe if they, they're probably not, right? So they're in this position where Brentford, Palace, Tottenham, Everton, West Ham, they're in this group of teams where at this stage of the season, they're not going to get promoted. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to get European football. So it's kind of like it probably explains why sometimes some weeks Brentford are just terrible and some weeks they're really good. This week they were really good and I don't really know why. Because Bournemouth do have a slight chance of getting Europe. Bournemouth should be doing better. Should be really fighting for all of these scores. Got Evan Nielsen back, who was scoring before this game week. Evan Nielsen was scoring every week. What lineup did I play Evan Nielsen? Here we go. For my third Premier League in-season team. Semenyo, stinking out the place on his debut for AFC Amreezy. Stinking out the place. Evan Nielsen stopping scoring. So yeah, these two need to get going. I think I'd be more annoyed if I had a Clivert because Kluivert's the most expensive of the Brentford Sorare cards, and why I avoided him. So I'd been more annoyed if I had Kluivert. Semenyo, was a kind of cheap punt at £2. But Bournemouth in general were terrible. Zabani came back in defence, which was nice. I have a Zabani card, so it was good that I could finally play him in one of my lineups. I think I played him in my under-23 lineup. And he looked good. I was worried that he wouldn't play because he's been out of the team for a while with that suspension. And I was worried he might not be match fit, but he looked really solid. He looked really fit. So he wasn't the reason they lost. But I don't know why Lewis Cook's still at right back. A bit of a Hinchelwood situation like at Brighton. Surely Hill could be doing a better job. Surely an actual right back could be doing a better job. I think Lewis Cook's such an important player for Bournemouth in terms of a captain and a leader that they kind of just want to find a place for him in the team. And Adams and Christie are doing better in the midfield, so he's kind of been pushed out of midfield. So maybe that's why he's still at right back, but I'm not the biggest fan of him at right back. I do like him as a player, but I'd like him in the middle. But very disappointing with Bournemouth. Very disappointing. Just lack of creativity, lack of ideas, Evan Nielsen wasn't getting the service that he's had in the previous games. Kluivert looked really quiet, and it wasn't a case of like Brentford were man marking them. Brentford had a defensive strategy to kind of counter Bournemouth. Just seemed like Bournemouth didn't really turn up to this one, which is a shame that maybe the wheels are falling off Bournemouth's season. But it could also be expected. They've had a tiring season. They've done well. Whatever happens now, it's a good season, but it's a bit of a shame. Brentford, on the other hand, Riese, Bremo, Damsgaard. I wish I had backed Brentford before at the beginning of the season, because even though they've had games where you've been very frustrated with Brentford, they've also had games where they've been really good. So on those games, yeah, they score higher, even when they only score 2 goals. And Bremo's always involved, Riese's always involved, Damsgaard. They're always involved in attacks. And I think they're a very attacking team that don't take all of their chances. How many shots did they have in this game? 10 shots. Can we have although 2 big chances, that's not good. 2 big chances. A very low XG for Brentford. For Brentford, the 2 Bs playing each other, the B derby. So maybe they were lucky to score 2 goals from their 2 big chances. But that being said, maybe 17 shots and only 3 shots and an expected XG of 1.67 shows you that Bournemouth were just too wasteful with their chances. That was basically the story of the game. Brentford were ruthless. Bournemouth weren't ruthless, anywhere near enough ruthless, and were very wasteful. So that was the last game on Saturday. Brentford and Bournemouth. We've gone too far back. Then it went to Sunday, where my Chelsea boys opened the day. Every week. The only good news is it was a narrow defeat. I was expecting this to be a 4-5-0. I was expecting Arsenal to smell blood here and just completely destroy Chelsea. Only silver lining for Chelsea, it was a 1-0 defeat. No striker again, no Cole Palmer now. So no Jackson, no Madueke, no Cole Palmer. So the 3 best attackers from the beginning of the season, all out of the team. And they're relying on Neto, who's a good creative winger, who's got a really good cross on him. Guess where you don't want someone who's got a really good cross on him playing? Around about here. So Neto is not a number 9. He's a great winger, not a number 9. Sancho and Nkunku didn't turn up. Don't know why. Don't know why Nkunku and Sancho aren't playing for their futures. Because Sancho, his future next season, who knows where he's going to be. He's on loan. He should be doing everything he can. And this was a rare chance for Sancho to get into that team. I don't think he would have played if Palmer was fit. So Sancho getting a game should have been playing, surely for his future. Where's the motivation? Nkunku as well. Who knows where Nkunku's going to be next year? Needs to be playing for the scouts. At the moment, who's going to be watching Nkunku and Sancho and thinking, oh, we could sign these guys next year? Because Nkunku could easily go back to the Bundesliga next year, play for a team like Leverkusen, RB Leipzig, play for one of those teams and do well and revive his career. But who in the Bundesliga is watching Nkunku right now going, yeah, we need to give him another chance? So I just think he's going to be trading on his name and that alone when he gets his move in the summer. If he gets his move in the summer, it could become a case of if right now. And yeah, terrible. Caicedo putting a shift in. Colwill putting a good shift. Colwill has been quietly really good for Chelsea since Christmas, I think. Colwill has been really good for Chelsea. His scores haven't always shown it, and he's been one of those players where he's been playing in a bad defense, so his scores are never going to, in fantasy games, are never going to do well. But just in terms of someone that watches Levi Colwill every week, he deserves a better defense around him. He deserves a better player than Badiashile. He should not be playing with Badiashile anywhere near him and Sanchez behind him. So he needs someone better behind him, and he needs someone better next to him. I'd like to think that could be Fofana next year when he's got a bit of match fitness. Fofana is not match fit right now. It was obvious this week. He was playing at right back, I think maybe to kind of make Chelsea's defense a bit more solid. But when you've got Badiashile in the defense, it's not going to be the most solid defense anyway. So it didn't quite work out. But yeah, Colwill is a good player. I think should become an England regular in the future. And when Chelsea finally get their act together, when they finally sort their defense out, Colwill should be playing with someone better. But Colwill, there was the only good thing about Chelsea. In terms of Arsenal, I don't think Arsenal were at their best as well. I think Arsenal should have destroyed Chelsea. Perhaps they're a bit took it for granted that they were going to win this, and they got that kind of early-ish goal, which really just killed any chance of a surprise Chelsea performance. So when they got that goal, I think they just coasted. They didn't really... It was one of those cases where Arsenal didn't need to play better, but also they probably should have played better for their own sake. Liverpool weren't playing this weekend, so they did gain 3 points on Liverpool, but if they'd have gained 3 points and 3 or 4 goals, that would have been a much better momentum builder for Arsenal. So yeah, they weren't at their best, but they didn't need to be at their best. Trossard was the only one in the orange here, but only just 6.9. So yeah, solid ratings all around for Arsenal. I'm very impressed with Timber. Every time I've seen Arsenal lately, Timber's been really good and really attacking. And the amount of times where he was overlapping Martinelli, just bombing forward here, got himself in the box a few times, had the best rating out of the defenders here, 7.6. And I don't think that's the first game where he's been the best rated Arsenal defender. I think he's had a few games where he's been, in terms of Sorare, I think the big money's on Saliba and Gabriel. But Timber you can get for £6, £6.73, which it's hard to know what prices are good at this point of the season because all the prices have come down massively. But he's someone who's got Champions League football, someone that I think should be playing in the international breaks. Did he play in the last international break? He played one of the games and was on the bench for the other game. So he should be in the international breaks, should be in Champions League games. And look, it's been scoring really well. Really well, good scores, and a goal and an assist in these 2 games. And like against Chelsea, I spotted it as well. He's really attacking, very attacking, way more attacking than Ben White used to be when Ben White was playing at right back. Is Ben White injured? No, Ben White's just a sub bench player these days. He's far more attacking than Ben White, so I get why he's now in the team, and I think he's got that spot. That's his spot now. If he can stay fit, Timber, I think, is possibly the second most appealing defender in terms of Sorare. I still think, Gabriel, maybe Saliba their threat from set pieces is quite dangerous, but the way Timber's been playing, he's rivaling them. And if he's a much cheaper, let me have a quick check at how much Gabriel will cost. If he's much cheaper, and again, I'm thinking for next season now. I'm thinking, next season, if you wanted to pick an Arsenal defender, because they've had a really good defense historically for the last 2 years, Arsenal. So Gabriel's £7. So he's about only a little bit cheaper than Gabriel. So yeah, it's those end of season prices. But if we're thinking for next season now, we want to play Sorare as forward thinking managers. I like what I'm seeing from Timber, and maybe at the end of the season, you can get him at a even cheaper discount price. Could be one for next year, but Timber was like one of those players that impressed me the most on this team that I haven't already thought about in terms of Sorare. The rest of the players I already thought about. The young players coming through, Rice, Partey, Odegaard. Martinelli's come back from injury. He's about £7 as well in Sorare. So I do think Arsenal are gonna be really up for it. With Liverpool losing the Carabao Cup final, with Liverpool being knocked out of the Champions League, there's a slight glimmer of hope for Arsenal that maybe Liverpool's form and confidence isn't going to be as good as it was a few months ago. So with that, Arsenal are surely going to think we have to really put the pressure on Liverpool and make them slip up a few more times. And with Martinelli coming back from injury and him starting this game, I think it was quite telling because I don't know necessarily. I didn't expect Martinelli to start, even though I knew he was back from injury. I thought he's not going to play up front. I think Marino will stay there. And then Nwaneri's been great lately. So I was surprised to see Nwaneri didn't play with Trossard. But I mean, looking at his rating, 7.4 rating, Trossard was the weak link here. Maybe in the future it's Martinelli on the left, Nwaneri on the right, and then they stick with Marino in the middle. Either way, I think Martinelli could be worth thinking about. The things you have to think about are, firstly, does Nwaneri come back in his team? And then secondly, is Martinelli fit? Because he did go off this game with an injury. I don't know how serious it is. It seemed like it could be precautionary because he's just come back from an injury. But if he's got a serious injury again, that's really unlucky for him. But if he's back in the team though, these are the two players I'm looking at in Sorare: Martinelli and Timber. No one from Chelsea. Don't go anywhere near Chelsea, says the bitter Chelsea fan. Right, we've got two more games to finish on. Fulham v Tottenham. Fulham are so strange. We never know which Fulham are going to arrive. We never know which Tottenham are going to arrive. And usually we expect goals with Tottenham and then loads of goals conceded. This week it was goals conceded and then no goals. My Sorare interests were Brennan Johnson and Bentancur. Both bad games. Johnson went off at half-time. Bentancur didn't have a great game. No one really did at Tottenham. No one had a great game. They were very poor. I didn't see this game because it was at the same time as the Chelsea game. So I only saw the highlights. So looking at the rankings, it's not surprising me. I'm surprised to see Romero and Udogie even got in the green. Not sure how they did that, but they did it. Fair play. Fulham still without my boy Wilson. How long is he out for? Harry Wilson, mid-April. I thought it was sooner than that. I thought it was March. I was sure Wilson was coming back this month. Maybe he had a setback. But yeah, I mean, Bassi had a really good game. Bassi's had a great season. One of the best breakthrough seasons, maybe, Bassi at Fulham this year. One of the most improved players, Bassi. And I'd argue Bassi at Fulham. And that's credit to Silva as a manager. He's a good manager. Will he stay at Fulham? If he stays at Fulham next year, there could be another good team. I've been talking all of these videos. Every week I'm like, maybe I should have gone for Fulham players. Maybe I should have gone for Berge. Maybe I should have gone for, not just Wilton and Robinson who I went for. But I feel like each week I see who did best at Fulham. It's always someone different. And I think that's why it's good that I didn't buy any Fulham cards, because I went for Robinson and Wilson, who on their day are great players. But, this week it was Pereira. And Iwobi was terrible. Other weeks we've had a look at Fulham when they've done well, and we've gone, Iwobi had a great game, and Pereira didn't play or was average. So I just don't think there's anyone in this Fulham team who you can kind of go, every week they're good. Maybe Sander Berge. Maybe. And that midfielder that they have, he's fairly decent as well. I can't remember his name. That's gone. But yeah, with Fulham, we never know. What we need, right? What we need from Fulham in the summer is for them to sell some of these on-the-fence players like Iwobi and Adama Traore, and just have a nailed 11 that we know are going to play. Maybe sign someone like that we know is also going to score well. Or we take the gamble on Fulham next year and we gamble players like Smith Rowe are going to just be fully nailed on next year. Players like Berge, Pereira, maybe Iwobi, maybe, I don't know. Every time I try to talk myself into getting some Fulham cards, I always talk myself out of it, and it's what I've done again. Because, I mean, who knew? Willian played. So, who knows? So yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near Fulham right now, but I would think about it for next summer. And then the last game that we're going to finish this week's video on is Leicester 0, Manchester United 3. And it was a case of, if you need a win, play Leicester. It was a classic case of all of the orange ratings for Leicester, apart from Vardy, 7.1. And then Manchester United, it's the best game to have. When you need a win, it's the best fixture in town, Leicester. And it's one of those fixtures where you can't really go, are Man United back? Are they going to be playing well? Is this a turning point? I will say it's not just this game, and they did get a good result in Europe against Sociedad. So, and then what did they do before Sociedad? Before Sociedad, they drew to Arsenal, which was an encouraging performance as well. So you could argue Man United have had... You could argue the first leg of the Sociedad game wasn't the worst result, because they were away and they didn't lose. So that could be 4 good performances in a row now. And they've got Nottingham Forest away next. So let's not rush into getting Manchester United cards. But it's one of those, whisper it quietly. Who have they got after Forest? City, Lyon, Newcastle, Lyon. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. But then Wolves and Bournemouth. They could be two good games. Brentford could be good. West Ham could be good. Chelsea could be good. So it's not the worst idea to sort of... If you're a Manchester United fan, I would definitely encourage you back your team now and go, hopefully this could be a turning point, because they've not had like massive defeats. Lost to Tottenham 1-0, lost to Crystal Palace 2-0. It's not like they're getting thrashed. And I think they are finding a little bit of confidence. And beating Leicester is a good result. Heaven had a good game as well. I was surprised with him. Man U were pretty mid. Just look at the XG. Let's look at the XG, Thomas. Let's look at that XG. Yeah, 0.9. Leicester had a better XG. Wow. Yeah. All right. You may have talked me down. You may have talked me down. Because, yeah, I mean, you want Bruno Fernandes and then who else? Maybe, you know, if you've not got Bruno, I don't have Bruno Fernandes. Maybe it's a case of, okay, don't back Manchester United, but Bruno seems to be up for it at the moment. Every week he seems to be single-handedly saving them. So maybe it's a case of, it's just an advert for Bruno Fernandes. If you've not got Bruno, like me, maybe if his price hits but then his price isn't hitting that nice point. He's always, you know, what's Bruno Fernandes going for? Because he's the only Man United player, you know, you'd probably think about. I'd want him for like £10. There you go. I want him for £10. I don't want him for £40. £40, you can go and get Isaac. You can go and get Isaac for £40. You can go and get Haaland, I think, for £40. So he does suffer from the Manchester United tax, where they're such a well-supported club around the world. I think you're probably going to... Like, I saw that this Heaven guy at Manchester United had a good game in defence. So first thing I did was I went on Sorare, saw that his price is going up again. It's like £8-9. So it's the curse of Manchester United. Whenever one of their players does well, they'll double the price of what you expect to pay for a player. So, yeah, no, that XG is very alarming. And probably, unless you're a Manchester United fan, should put you off. Good spot, Thomas. Always with the stats. Appreciate it, Thomas. That's me this week. We're almost on the dot, 1 hour exactly. That is this week's Premier League games, all reviewed. It was a slightly shorter game week this week with 2 less fixtures. Let's hope. We've got no Premier League football next weekend, so there will be no video next Monday because it's an international break. But I'll be back the following Monday to review the Premier League football after the international break. Thank you, Thomas, for joining in the chat. Thank you, Konstantinos earlier and Homelander, and anyone else for watching. Anyone watching this in the future, give the video a like, a subscribe. Helps me out hugely. Help us grow this community so we can make these videos even more fun, even more interactive. I'll see you next week. Good luck with if you're playing international game weeks this week, Sorare. Good luck with all of that. I'll be back with a video on Thursday, a Road to Sorare Boss episode. Otherwise, I'll see you in 2 weeks for these Monday Premier League videos. Peace.